Welcome to Persian Tales Week 2 update. As you can see, I have managed to do quite a bit of crocheting over the last week. Yes, a lot. I don't really remember where we left off after the last week. I think I finished maybe the fans, or I was still working on the fans. I'm not entirely sure. I do know that after that section was finished, there was an endless amount of rounds with just single crochet, and I was getting a little bit bored. The rounds were getting larger and larger, so I did really have to kind of push myself through it because it was not the most fun. But it did become fun again when we started doing, I think, this round, like the pink round, because here in this round you have the half double crochet, treble crochets, and then you repeat that kind of, which creates the hexagon shape that it has, because this is such a fun blanket so far, because we're kind of transforming every couple of rounds, because first you have this like flower motif with the fans, then it kind of becomes a star because they turn into points, but then of course because it's a star you kind of have all of these like triangle gaps in between, which we filled up with that pink round, and now they're like, I don't know, I always forget the shape, but now they are this shape. And I'm super happy with them so far. I did run out of yarn a couple of times, so I did already purchase a second ball of white, which I think I'm like halfway through the white now as well. And I still of course have to do like the other granny squares, like the typical granny squares but Persian style. Then we also have the seaming together, the borders, so we still have quite a lot of work. So I might have to get a third ball of the white yarn. Then I also ran out in all of the other colors, except the colors that I didn't use a lot, which are the brown and the beige, just because I wanted mostly like a fun and colorful blanket and not brown and beige, basically. So there is one yarn where I had to get a different replacement, which is this light blue, because my local store, just the one near me right now, didn't have that, and I could have gone further to another store. It would have been like a 15-minute bike ride, so I'm just being lazy, but I didn't want to go there and get it. I'm very lazy, and there's a craft store very much nearby my house. I'm gonna show you the just a second. So like I said, there is a craft store like right around the corner, so I went there, and it did cost me €3 extra, but I think it's okay. And it's not the same, but I think it's super similar, so I don't think it's really going to be noticeable in the finished object. So here you can see the original light blue and then the new light blue. So all of the yarns I'm using, like I said, are from like a local random store, the Vibra and the Zeeman. But this is Scheepjes Color Crafter. So if you want to get some type of blanket yarn, this will probably be a little bit easier to get for you. But this is also quite a bit more expensive. So each ball of this is €4, and it has 100 grams, 300 meters, whilst my yarn that I used in this blanket has 100 grams, 240 meters. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too noticeable. But really, I'm not going to use this yarn a lot, so I might just save it, like the leftovers, for my next blanket. And I do have to say that yes, it's 3 times the price, but it's so soft. Like, this is like the softest acrylic yarn that I've ever felt, and it doesn't have that like squeakiness that a lot of acrylic yarn has. Like sometimes, like my crochet hook, when I'm crocheting, will make like a squeaky noise, and that will really like set my teeth on edge, which yeah, I just don't like that at all. But I am pulling through, because when I like feel my granny squares like this, they are soft, like they are sometimes like a little bit squeaky, but overall I think it's going to be alright. But this does not have that. So I might have to make an entire blanket with this yarn. So for example, a blanket that I'm currently looking at is a blanket by the Floral Hook. I know that you're here for this blanket that I'm currently working on, but I'm already thinking of making another one, like a different type of blanket, because I am progressing quite quickly. Like I finished almost, like I just need to do one more round, but almost 16 of these in 2 weeks, so that's very quick in my opinion. There are a couple of ones, but my favorite one right now is the Harvest Moon block. Absolutely gorgeous, but then I also got the Chrysalis throw and also the Marigold Desert throw, because she was doing like 50% discount when you bought both of those patterns, so it's basically 1+1, or like buy one get one free. And I know that I'm going to make those eventually. So I got the patterns, and I don't really mind buying patterns because I like supporting artists. So yeah, as an artist myself, I like buying patterns, I admit it. Even though maybe I will never make those blankets, but I'm being optimistic and hoping that one day I will. So yeah, I will see you back here after this week. everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a new video. Today's video will be a little bit different than my usual knitting podcast because this video will be like a mini knitting podcast combined with some vlog material that I've gathered probably over the past month, maybe a little bit before that to be honest. And I'm just going to combine it all into one video because I have kind of decided that I'm not going to be making traditional knitting podcasts anymore. They just don't really fulfill me creatively, so I don't feel like making them anymore. I also took a little bit of a YouTube break, but I'm very excited now to be back and to be making videos again. I'm just gonna do it probably a little bit differently. I don't know, I said that before, but I think I have decided to kind of let go of this knitting podcast thing because it's just not working for me anymore. So it's time to do something different and to shift. I am going to briefly just show you all of the things that I've been working on just because I think it's fun to catch up, but I will be just talking briefly about all of the projects. I think there maybe have been more things that I finished since I've last seen you. There was definitely also a yellow cardigan, I guess I could show you that as well. But there are a few things that I finished that are a crochet project because I've been crocheting a lot lately. So the first thing that I finished is a little scrap basket. There's a free pattern for this on Ravelry, so I will have that link down below. I made this with a bunch of different scraps held together, like cotton yarns, DK wool yarns, even mohair yarns. I just gathered everything that was a similar color, held it together like this. And I think I crocheted on a 7mm hook. And then you get this basket. And it is quite hard on the hands to make it. Like, it's definitely not the most fun project, but it was quite quick. And you can see the size. It's quite a decent size, I think. And I made this in 2 days. So I think that's pretty reasonable. And then inside this scrappy basket that I have finished, I actually have a new work in progress, which is a cardigan. And this is a second version of a cardigan that I also finished, but you've not seen it completely finished yet. So I guess I'll quickly grab it to show you. So this is my Maple Meadow cardigan. This is currently being test knitted. This is a design that will be released in September. And it's a really fun and vintage inspired cardigan with a little bit of pointelle lace stitch, which is here mostly in the front. But then I did a braided cable next to it and then also some stitch stitch. Then it has a little bit of a puff sleeve, although I'm making a version currently that's going to have a tapered sleeve. So the pattern also has instructions on how to decrease in the seed stitch. And I'm actually really in love with the color of this as well. And this is knit with a drop snort held together with the drops brushed alpaca silk. And it just created a really beautiful and lightweight fabric. And then I also made this little I-cord tie here at the waist, which I just think is a really cute detail. And this is also something that is optional, but I do like it for this one in particular. Because the yarn and everything about this, like this sample in particular, is very romantic. I think the waist tie is really nice. So the second version that I'm making is actually more of a traditional cabled cardigan, which is going to be pink. And it's a little bit more traditional in the sense that the stitch definition and the yarn is just very different. So this one is a little bit tweedy, as you can see. And it's really curling up on it itself. But I have joined for the underarms, and other than that, we don't really have a lot of progress here. And this is with a yarn from Scheepjes, which was kindly gifted to me, honestly, like a year ago. But now I'm finally knitting it, so kind of feel bad about that, but I do really like it. And it's the Scheepjes Terrasso, held together with the Scheepjes Alpaca Rhythm. And the colors go together really beautifully. And here you can see that the Terrasso really has a nice tweedy. I really like that it just creates more traditional cables. Like the knitting texture is more structured and it's not as fluffy, for example, as the yellow version that I made. So it's going to be quite different. So like I said, this is a September knitting pattern release. So I really like these colors as well, because here we are kind of transitioning from fall, like from summer to fall is what I'm trying to say. So I feel like this one is still really summery, although you can also wear it in the fall. And then the pink one is going a little bit more into the fall colors. I have been actually buying a lot of yarn because I have planned out all of my designs for the end of the year. And then also some of those are for like January, February. And I kind of planned all of my colors, so everything is going to really go well together, kind of like a mini collection. So I'm very excited, spent a lot of money. My yarn cabinet is very full right now. I'm not going to show you, but I just wanted to say that because I'm very excited for all of the designs that are upcoming. We even have a dress and lots of cardigans because I love designing cardigans. So that is my first work in progress. And then my second work in progress is something that I've kind of put on hold and then started knitting on it again, and then it went back and forth like that. Because this is a design that's a little bit of a challenge for me. I usually knit a European shoulder construction and an oversized design. That's kind of my sweet spot and my comfort zone when it comes to designing knitting patterns. So this time I'm doing it a little bit differently because I really had a vision that I wanted something with a puff sleeve. And I really wanted to create a puff sleeve differently than how I normally would, because normally I would do rapid increases and you can get like a puff that really stands up on its own, but a little bit too much. So it doesn't look like a traditional puff sleeve that has gathers, like when you're sewing. I don't know if you sew, but if you do, then you know what I mean. And I wanted to create that effect, but with knitting. So I do have my little tiny progress here, and you can see the first sleeve that I did. You can kind of see that it has these little gathers, which then create this little puff sleeve, which I think did turn out really nice. And I think this is called a contiguous shoulder construction, but it does have also a lot of German short rows, so you get a little bit of a sloped shoulder, which is really nice. Here you can see what it looks like when the shoulder is not seamed yet, so it does like involve a tiny bit of seaming here, which I'm intending to make a YouTube tutorial about that, so that's why I haven't done it here yet. So that is the base of the construction of the design, but then of course, who am I if I were designing a simple stockinette sweater? Like, that's just not me. So I decided to add some color work in there. But then sadly, I am very particular about color work when it comes to something that is not a circular yoke. So I get really annoyed with designs that have like color work yokes, but then are a raglan. I'm doing a really bad job explaining it. But basically, once you start adding increases in a raglan and then also have color work, usually the color work is interrupted by the increases, and the look of that really annoys me. So here I am trying to design something where that is not the case, which it definitely is, but I feel like it's a little bit less noticeable. So here you can see right now it's like this would be upside down, of course, but you can kind of see that it's not as noticeable. Here, all of my increases, it's still like noticeable that there's something happening there, but at least not as much as I think there usually is. So that is the plan currently, and it's going to have mostly color work on the bottom half of the sweater. So the top part is like the green part, but then I think on the bottom there's going to be less of this green yarn. So yeah, that was a very lengthy explanation, even though I said I wouldn't do a long explanation, but this design kind of needed it. So this is knit with drop slima, which is really nice. So it's a nice DK weight yarn, super soft. I've knit a color work design with the drop slima before and I really liked it, so that's why I went for this yarn again. Then we actually have another finished object that I have, and that's a crochet project bag, which just looks like this. This is based off my Amy sewing pattern that is currently sadly not available anywhere online. That is because I received a bad review on Etsy, and I just want to improve the pattern to be able to avoid any bad reviews, just because I really want to keep my rating on Etsy as high as possible. So someone gave me like a 2-star rating and I don't want to drag my rating down. So just to prevent any more bad ratings, even though I've sold this pattern for a longer time, I am deciding to update it. Just don't know when that's going to happen, sadly. So yeah, it's not available at the moment, but I did use it as a base for this bag. And this bag was pretty simple to make. It kind of started with making 3 of these textured crochet granny squares and then just building on top of that with some like a mix of stitches. So we have single crochet, double crochet, then also here where I skipped a stitch, and then some puff stitches here. So it creates just like a little bit of texture going on, which I think really looks nice. Then I sewed everything together on the sewing machine and also added a fusible batting lining on the inside, so it really stands up on its own, which is really nice. So you get a really unique and fun bag like this, which I just think is really fun to store your knitting or your crochet in a bag that's also knitting or crochet, at least made of yarn. And then inside of this bag I actually have some yarn that I purchased for a crochet pillow, which I have not made yet. I do know which pillow it's going to be. It's going to be like a quilted star motif with crochet. I'll just insert a picture on the screen because that is one of my future plans in case you're interested. And then speaking of crochet, I do have another crochet project here. Like I said, I've been crocheting like crazy, and again we have my Amy project bag here. So this is actually a gift for someone. I don't know if they're watching this, so I have to put a little disclaimer that if you're family, then this would be the time to stop watching this video. But basically I am making a pillow for someone, and it's just going to be their wedding anniversary gift, and it's going to fit into their backyard area where they have a lot of these kind of colors. So these are not my usual colors, but they are definitely theirs. So it's fun to be working on something different. I don't know how I feel about it right now, but I'll just show you. This is all of the progress that I've made so far. This is the Babylon square by Sandra Sales, which is I think a Spanish designer. I'm not sure where she's from actually. It's a really nice pattern. It's very textured, and it also has some independent rounds, or indie rounds as some people call it. So that is how you kind of create these little flower elements. So you have a lot of ends to weave in, which I am doing like along the way, even though it's going to be a pillow. So I'm not being too bothered by the ends because I know they just have to be hidden a little bit, and then of course it's going to have a backing on it, so it should be fine like this. Now the yarn that I'm using for this project is an absolute nightmare. It's a Drops Cotton Light, and this yarn splits like crazy. Definitely would not recommend using this yarn. I think, well, maybe you will like it, but I definitely will not be buying it again after this project. Like, it splits like crazy, it's super dry on the hands. The fabric is a little bit rough, like it works well for a pillow like this, but I don't really like it at all. So yeah, I just need to get this finished, and then I'm never going to work with this yarn ever again. And then my final work in progress that I have is actually a new crochet blanket, which is a little bit crazy. It's going to be replacing the blanket that is currently behind me, which is just one, which I don't really like this blanket, and that's why I'm replacing it. And it's also really badly done because I really did not weave in my ends. I put them behind the other tails, or like behind my work, which a lot of people do, but for me it really does not work, and the whole blanket is falling apart. So I don't like that blanket. And I'm now making something else to be put over this chair because it's part of my workspace and I really like having a blanket here. So I'm making the Harvest Moon blanket by the Floral Hook, which actually it's not technically like a blanket, but the way that she designs her patterns is that she will start with a block, which like can be used for a pillow or something else. And you can buy an expansion pack, and then you can put those together and create a blanket. And you can actually also mix and match. So you can buy the block from one pattern and then use the extension from another pattern, which is really interesting. But I'm doing the Harvest Moon block with the Harvest Moon extension, so just skipping it all the same. And this is my current progress, and it's absolutely stunning. I know, I cannot toot my own horn like that, but you have to admit that this is stunning. Like, these are all my typical colors, and I'm just absolutely in love with this. The yarn that I'm using is a little bit crazy. This is all fingering weight cotton. And I decided to use this yarn because I just had so much of this in my stash, and I thought this was a good way to get rid of some. Because of course with a blanket like this, you're using so many different colors together. I don't really know if I will have enough of the yarn in the end, but I wouldn't mind having to buy more of it because it is something that is easily available to me, like at craft stores and local yarn stores. Almost everywhere you can buy this kind of yarn. So the majority of the yarn is the Cotton 8 by Scheepjes. Like, for example, this one is the Cotton 8. But then there's also some here that are from Sostene Grenne. So they also sell the Cotton 8, for example, in this color, which I thought was very nice. And then also my local craft store, which is the Pipos. They also sell this yarn. So I'm just using a little bit like of all of those brands, just whatever colors they have. And yeah, I really love it. And I am using a 3mm hook, which is a little bit crazy, like I said. But I really love this process. I really love the yarn. Like, this is so soft on the hands. Like, this project is nicer to work on for me than the pillow, which is a 4mm hook, but this one is better. So I prefer working on this one, and it's giving me a lot of joy. The progress right now is slow, but we're getting there. And this is actually almost the block finish. So after this I have like, I think 3 more rounds, and then the block will be finished, and I'm ready to get on to the expansion pack. Extension, not the expansion pack. It's not a game, even though for me maybe it is. So those were all of the things that I'm currently working on, the things that I finished, the things that I'm excited to get started on. I know this was a little bit rushed and crammed together, but that's how I wanted it to be. I just want this to be more entertaining, and I don't want to just drag on and talk about a project for 5 minutes. I just don't want to do it anymore, so I'm sorry about that. But I really hope you will enjoy the footage that is after this of me just working on some things here and there. I also recently did a shop update on my website, maybe the label, so I did some new project bags, and I'm also currently selling some really cute knitting journals, so if you're interested in any of those, they will be linked in the description. From now on, I am going to have a shop update at least every month, so I can make more project bags for you, because it is one of my passions and it's really fun for me, and I'm really excited to have my web shop back, because that's kind of how I started this YouTube channel. As someone that had a web shop and just sharing a little bit of my experience. Thank you all for being here and for sticking around even though I took a break of a month. And I'm very excited again to get back into it. For now, I wish you all a very happy day, happy knitting, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!